Hello guys, and welcome to a video that I've really been looking forward to making. We have, as you can see, the HRL Halo 5 drivers tier list. It should just say tier whatever. First tier list that I've made. You got the idea when Clad and I did the tier list podcast, and I've kind of just been sitting on it for a little bit, and I finally decided to do it. And yeah, so we have 7 tiers here to be exact. We got, normal tiers here, S, A, and B, and then C is like the average column. So this is the only one I gave its own rating. I just gave it the average ass racer. I feel like that was perfect right there. And then the D, the E, and unfortunately the F. So we have several pictures here representing different racers, and I'm sure, I mean, if you're part of the community, you could probably figure out some of these, but some of these are gonna be like damn near impossible without my help. So I will definitely be helping out like here and there as we go through them. And obviously, like in the video here, I'm gonna be going through each of them, and some of them did not crop very well either, so that's also kind of a thing. And what I decided to do is there's just like way too many drivers that did like one or two races or like 5 races, something like that. So what I did was just arbitrary number. I was like 15. 15's a good number. 15 in the single race format is a little bit longer than a normal season, so that's like a good amount of experience. So I thought that 15 was a pretty decent number. So 15 starts is the little baseline that I did. You needed to have at least 15 starts. And this is, I'm like taking into account all of Halo 5 and all of that, like taking everything in your career of Halo 5 into account for your rankings on this. And I'm just going to go in order, and I don't want to delay it anymore. So let's get right into it.
Armada.
Armada is an interesting one and like a tough one to rate because he had like 2 different stints of racing in Halo 5, and he did like a bit different throughout both of those stints of racing. Like the first set of racing that Armada did in Halo 5, I'd probably put him in the A tier. But the second half, I might put him in like the C tier. So I'm thinking I'm gonna settle a B tier for Armada here. I think I'm gonna just settle for that. I think that's the best that I can do. Because it's 2 vastly different types of racing as well that he raced in too. Like it must have been a big adjustment. So like his is kind of hard to rate compared to some of these others, I think. So I'm just gonna settle with B though. I think that Armada overall above average, even though they definitely did have like 2 different sets of performance.
Atlantic champ. Why am I even giving him an intro? God damn it! I'm fucking tired of this.
I'm not gonna explain all these, okay? Like some of these I'm gonna explain, some of these I'm not. Some of these I'm just gonna leave up to interpretation because I think it'll be more fun with some of them. So this one's actually Atlantic champ, and but is he F tier? Yeah, he's F tier.
Beano 5's leaked ass pic. What?
So Bean's another interesting one where I don't know. Like if it was like MCC or Halo 4, probably rate Bean somewhere up here. But in Halo 5, I feel like Bean he did get a win though at one point. If I had to give it between Bean or Armada in Halo 5, I probably would give it overall to Armada. So I think I'm gonna put Bean as the first average ass racer here in our list. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I will give him credit though. I think Bean did get a win at one point, so he may end up being like the only average ass racer, or one of the few that actually has a win. So that's cool. But yeah, overall Bean, like some down performances, some upwards performances, but like nothing too strongly either way. So I kind of had to put him in the average ass racer tier.
Commando Black. Wait, Pack? Commando Pack.
So Commando Pack, I feel like Commando Pack started off really rough, but at the same time, like on ovals especially, I feel like he had some little hints of promise. I would put him ahead of Atlantic champ, but not by a lot. I'm actually gonna put Commando for now in the E tier. Maybe as I go through the list, I might drop him down a little bit, but for now, we'll put him in the E tier.
The Cookie Monster.
I think that Cookie, he had a couple wins. He got his, well, on one track, he got his couple wins on Chili Cove. He had some pretty solid like top 5 performances, probably a few podiums in there as well, but he also had some rough performances. But overall, I would say definitely a significant amount more positive than negative, enough so to put him here with Armada in that B tier. I'm feeling pretty good about that one, B tier, for Cookie.
Could be better. At least his name is honest.
So he's a tough one, man. Phil's a really tough one, honestly, now that I think about it. Because, damn, he almost reminds me of Bean now that I think about it. Like, Phil has had some long stints of really bad performances, but also some runs of pretty good performances, especially on, like, GPs and stuff like that. So he is a hard one to rate. Overall, I would say that, man, he's had some shining moments, but still overall I feel like it leans a little bit towards the negative. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Phil there in the D tier.
Decoy,
great guy, great race manager for FLR as well. I almost said HRL. But overall in the racing department, on Halo 5 in particular, I think that he was definitely below average, but a little bit better than like these tiers. So and it at times showed some promise. So I actually feel pretty good about having a double D tier here. Throw him in there as well with Phil. I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Detail / Yaddle / Yurtle / Yanaris /
Daenerys, you know, iconic picture here for Detail. And this is a pretty easy first S tier for me. You know, in HRL, most championships out of any driver on Halo 5, and, you know, vastly up there with the wins as well, and all the other stats too, and also like some crazy personal records as well. And on top of like the championships, also the elimination tournament win, which elim tourneys are pretty hard to win, so that's pretty impressive as well. And yeah, it just especially like the second half of Detail's Halo 5 career has been really, really, really solid. And even though his first half was maybe like average ass to B tier, he improved so much in like way more seasons than you got to remember. He only did like what, season 1, season 2, which wasn't even really a season, so it's like season 1 and a quarter. Season 3 and 4 were him being like average ass to B tier, and then you have season 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, the tournaments, 11, all those seasons of him being like really top tier. So I think it's a definite solid S tier there.
Elite MKB.
I feel like Elite thinks he's an average ass racer, but he's not. But he's also just not in these tiers. So I'm gonna put him here with Decoy and Phil. I think the Elite's in that category. He's had, you know, some shining moments, well, Gridiron, and you know, some negative in there as well. But he always keeps a positive spirit, and I gotta give him credit for that. So we'll put Elite in that D tier. I'm really curious to see how this spread works out.
Fire cunt, fire cuck, fire bitch, fire ass, fire fuckface, fire cocksucker, fire cocklicker, fire. Fine, Fireball, fine, fucking whatever.
I know Fireball is going to be A tier. Let me explain it a little bit. I think that Fireball, he's got some championships. He has the Season 8 Oval Series regular season, is only a regular season. So Season 8 Oval Series Championship and the Season 4 Grand Finals Championship. One thing I will give Fireball credit for is, like, for example, you have Detail who, like, more steadily got better over time. Fireball probably had, like, the quickest, just the absolute most rapid, insane pace of improvement out of any driver. I will give him that. I think that would probably go to him. He had the least amount of time where he went from like E tier to C to B to A. Like, it was just such a rapid change. So I will give him a lot of credit for that. The reason why I don't quite put him in the S tier is because, one, like his attitude. I feel like if it wasn't for his attitude and his personality, he'd probably have maybe an extra championship or two, and probably quite a few more wins, quite a few more podiums than he does. Like, I feel like he's not quite where someone like Detail's kind of like reached their potential. I feel like Fireball's been in a spot for a while where he's just not quite there, and that kind of takes him down a little bit. And yeah, if he did have that extra, like if he had a main series championship, that would bump him up to S tier. But just the fact that in main series the only thing he got was grand finals, which was very impressive. But you also got to understand that I weigh regular season a bit more higher in regard than grand finals. And he also did win the Oval Series, which I hold in pretty high regards, but at the same time, still, I feel like that main series is like the hardest thing to do. And you know, he was never able to achieve that, unfortunately. But despite that, he still had some other pretty big accolades. He's still two-time champion, still several wins. Can't really take much away from him.
Flame Vortex.
Okay, so this is, man, I was just running out of ideas here. This is Flame Vortex. Okay, some of you probably aren't even going to remember Flame Vortex, but Flame Vortex is another driver that I don't want to spend too much time on because, again, like, sorry to him, but a lot of you probably aren't even going to remember him. Flame Vortex is like a solid E-tier driver. Not quite at the bottom, but not quite up here to the average realm. Just sort of like floating around down here and just didn't really move too much. So that's where I decided on Flame Vortex. By the way, that was the first image that showed up when I looked up Flame Vortex on Google Images.
HTxGamer. HT.
So here we have HTxGamer, and the reason his picture is the creeper from Minecraft is because I looked up HTxGamer and there was a picture of like a little creeper thing. So I was like, okay, you know what, whatever, because I have no other ideas what to do with him. HT, I do think that he improved during his short time racing, but he didn't improve by a lot. He probably started at like an E tier, and towards the end, I think that he ended off around a D tier. Definitely showed improvement, and given more time, I think that he could have made that average ass racer realm, which apparently only Bean holds so far. A lot of D's so far.
HunterUnit.
I actually think that Hunter is worthy of, we'll do the explanation in a second, I think Hunter is worthy of B tier. I really do. Hunter, you know, is usually in that, like, let's say like 4th place to 8th place area, and that's, if you think about it, that's a little bit, like, average ass would be what, like 10 to 6, so 8 to 4 would be a little bit better than that. And he's also got some wins under his belt. He's got some solid points finishes. Yeah, there are some negative finishes in there as well, but there are going to be for everyone. I think that his positives outweigh those negatives a lot more consistently than some of these other drivers that if they had like those top 5s and edge of top 5 finishes that Hunter did, maybe it'd bump him up a little bit. So I think I'm feeling pretty good about putting Hunter in B tier, honestly.
Jared.
I'm sorry, Jared. I'm sorry, Jared. Jared's not a Halo racer, alright? Jared's not a Halo racer, alright? Jared, I gassed you up a bit for the COD tier list. I gotta be honest here with you, though, on the Halo racer tier list. Now, if Jared did put some more time into it, I think Jared would take it seriously enough to where I genuinely think that give him a season, he could improve to even D tier if you gave him like a full season. I really do think that could happen. But at the same time, we raced season 9, and like that didn't really happen. So I don't know. Maybe if I help Jared out a little bit, maybe it could raise him a couple tiers. But with Jared's performances, it's got to be an F tier. I'm sorry, bud. I'm sorry.
Justice.
I think that Justice is a pretty solid E tier. I think that when I think Justice, just because we just did Jared, I think like just a little bit better than Jared. That's really what I think. And you know, he got like a heat win in there. I would put him, you know, just because we just did Jared, I'd put him like a little bit ahead of him, and maybe so far as to put him a tier ahead of him. But I don't think that Justice ever got into like this realm, and he never put enough time into it. So we'll put him in that E tier.
Get it? I'm not saying anything because it's Kambi's intro. Now
Kambi's a weird one, man. Kambi, oh, Kambi's a tough one. Kambi's a really tough one. Oh shit. Okay, so I think that Kambi has gone through. Kambi, I'm not even kidding, is probably the only driver that, depending on the season, I would put him in any of these tiers, or these tiers: B, average ass, D, E, and F. Depending on the season, I would literally put him in any of those. With different seasons that Kambi has done, and I'm sure other people will probably agree with that as well. It is crazy how widely his skill level just ranges season to season, and I have to overall probably settle on D tier. Somehow Bean just ends up being the only average ass still, but yeah, overall I would have to settle on D tier, especially because of the recent performances. If it ended off around like season 6 or something like that, he'd probably be average ass, but like the more recent performances Kambi, I think, fell off a little bit, and that drops him down, even though he has had some good performances and especially has shown some promise on ovals. He's usually pretty solid there. Oval racer, he's probably like a A to B tier at least.
Cat to be kitten me.
I think that Cat is a solid. There you go, Bean. There you go. I think that Cat is a solid place in the average ass racer. Cat has had. He always, when he raced, kind of like roamed around that 10th to 6th area, but also would get some top 5s and maybe like a podium in there, but never quite the win category. But always showed that promise that like if he really wanted to, I feel like if he really wanted to win, he probably could have gotten a bit better. But for what he did, I feel like he raced pretty well. But not well enough to be like in that upper tier. So I'll put him like in that solid. He's probably gonna be pissed that he's behind Hunter.
Killer da man.
So Killer or Killer da man, E tier. E tier. I don't think he's down here in the F tier, but he's just like again like just a little bit better than like Jared in Atlantic. You know, he's usually not gonna finish last. He's usually gonna finish like 3rd or 4th last. So we'll put Killer right there.
Looch.
I gotta put Looch up in the S tier. I don't want to gas myself too much, but you know, I do think that Halo 5 was probably my best Halo racing wise, and the performances show that. So I gotta put myself up there solidly in the S tier next to Futch and Daenerys.
Opixonic.
You know what? We're finally starting to fill it. I think we've got another average ass racer here. I think we got to put Opix in that average ass racer category. Opix, Cat's the only one here that doesn't have a win, so that's kind of unfortunate. But Opix, you know, he's had some wins. He's had some really bad finishes. He's had like some consistency. He's had some inconsistency. Just kind of been all over the place. But when you look at all of it as a whole, I feel like it equals out just right to the middle. It's not too much negative. It's not too much positive. It kind of depends on the season. He's had some really good seasons. He's had some really good races. He's had some in the other direction. And it always kind of, he's always like in that mid-pack. Like in the races, I feel like he's generally in that mid-pack. In the points, he's usually in that like mid-pack as well. And I feel like he's damn near the quintessential average ass racer. He's like the bar that I choose all the other ones on. So Pancake's a tough one because just like not enough race performance again, and like not finishing out full seasons. So I'm gonna put him in the A tier there with Fireball for kind of similar reasons. If Pancake like finished out full seasons, I feel like you would see those results, but that just like never really happened. So you'd see some good performances here and there, and then just like disappear. So that's why I'm feeling like putting him there.
Papa Host Goose Launch.
Slaunch, with the Host Goose overall Halo 5, I think we're gonna have another S tier here. I think that overall Halo 5, especially early Halo 5, Slaunch always very competent, and generally it was between me and Slaunch in early Halo 5, and of course the competition started to grow as Halo 5 progressed. But even though Slaunch wasn't towards like the later half of the seasons, you know, not always in that championship hunt, he never really found himself outside of the top 5, and you know, he never really found himself in too much trouble like hunting for wins. Maybe like very recently, but you know, he would always be a driver that, like I said, always in that top 5, especially in Supercross, always in that win hunt. And also like had some variety too. I mean, obviously, like I think it's no secret that his weakness recently was GP, but it wasn't always like that. And he's still a pretty solid overall driver. And even though GP could be the bane of his later championship hopes many times, it's not even, you know, he would still get some wins on GP here and there, and he'd still get a lot of top 5s. So I don't know. I feel like Slaunch is generally at that higher end of the pack, and again, that, you know, warrants him being in the S tier.
Carmelo Anthony's #1 fan. Real deal.
And we're actually going to have 2 S tiers in a row. I think that Real Deal also goes in the S tier. Reasons being various wins. He got a regular season championship. The Grand Finals championship always eluded him. But he did get a regular season championship, and I think that that's big. Again, that main series championship is like one of the bigger things for me to look at. I mentioned that before, and even though he only got one, he's still a champion. It was a pretty dominant performance as well, and similar to what I was saying with Slaunch, like he's pretty much always in that top 5 hunt. I think that more so like Detail and myself are generally like in that consistent top. I think that Slaunch and Real Deal
are more prone to that like random really bad race. I think that both of them are more prone to that, but I don't think that drops them out of S tier. I still think they're on a different level of consistency than like a Fireball. So I'm feeling pretty good about putting them both there. Rebel Nardo to cap. That's so fucking dumb. Here, I'm not explaining this one. We have Rebel, and I'm putting Rebel in A tier. I think that Rebel, although his Halo 5 career was short, I think it was very promising. And I genuinely think that if Rebel kept racing and worked through some of those low points and just kept at it, I think that he would have stayed in A tier, and I think that he would have even had potential to raise up to an S tier. And I think that at least in one of our like specific series, you know, maybe if we got to that Supercross series, he certainly would have been a contender. I think that Rebel could have been a champion even. I really do think that if he kept with it, I think that he had the talent in Halo 5, especially with how much the competition, with how crazy it got later on, how closer it got between everybody. I think that Rebel would have been a part of that, and I think that he would have continued to improve. Like, that's just the type of driver he was, and like he already showed so much promise off his like debut that I feel like it was just up from there. And as well, you know, he's known as a Supercross guy, but he actually had some good performances at ovals. He had some good performances at GPs as well. And we never got to see him on Rallycross. I think he probably would have been solid there too. So yeah, I think that Rebel's a solid A tier. Jared's only other acquaintance that likes RevengeRacer. Revenge is an average-ass racer. Revenge is an average-ass racer. Like, shorter Halo 5 career, but, you know, from what we saw, he did get a win in there. I remember that. Revenge would have, like, some top performances, and then he'd have some low performances, but he'd never have any, like, really, like, super bad runs, for the most part. So we didn't get to see too much out of him, but from what we did get to see, I think that he fits into that average-ass racer. Ricardo, is that race? I think that Ricardo should be D tier. Ricardo did have like some rage moments and some tough races like that could put him down to an E tier, never an F tier. I wouldn't even consider him there. But I think that he had a good, like he was promising enough at ovals and like GPs to put him up there to that D tier, even though like maybe SX, RX not as strong. Roman's by, he's an alright guy. Roman's by, he's an alright guy. Roman's bye. Roman. So Roman's had a lot of good performances. That championship eludes him, but he's a pretty consistent driver, and he's probably one of the most, if not the most consistent driver to not get a championship. But he's also bi, so I'm gonna have to put him in that B tier. Where the hood at? I'm kidding. Roman's another A tier driver. Kind of. Well, aside from Fireball, like kind of a common theme of these A-tier drivers, Fireball again the exception, is just like good drivers that never got championships, and I think Roman fits into that. He's like always in that top 5, always has a ton of top 5s, few podiums, some wins here and there, good finishes, good consistency, but just is never able to get that championship. So I think he fits nicely into that tier. Where the hood at? It's Sector. E tier. I think that Sector is not. Oh, Jared's going to be pissed. Sector is definitely ahead of the field here with Atlantic Champ and Jared. And I think that Sector would be very competitive with these guys like Commando, Justice, Flame, Killer. I think that Sector, like, and these guys would have, like, really good battles. So they're just, like, a little bit ahead of that F tier again. And Sector also has a win. Now that I think about it, is Sector the only driver that has a feature win? Of this group? He might be. He might be Sector might be the lowest rated driver to have a win. I'd have to fact check that, but I think he is. That's kind of crazy. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but maybe that gave him a little bit more gas. I almost want to put him to D tier now, but I'm not going to. I still think he deserves E tier, but yeah. Come on, guys, line up while I'm fucking in the back, not lining up. Fucking Shift. I'm putting Shift in another E tier. Very competitive with these guys, and Shift, even on Supercross, has shown a few moments where it's like, maybe he could do it, but just, you know, he's more content of just, like, bitching and being Shift. And this is all in good fun, alright? I have a lot of respect for Shift, but, it's true. Stained Blades. I don't know why I sang that one. A tier. Put him there with Rebel as well. The teammates, of course. I think that Blades, again, same thing as Rebel. Like, I'm gonna say almost the exact same stuff. Like, really solid all-around driver that just career was too short, and we didn't get enough out of him because I think that if he would have kept racing, he would have kept
doing well. He would have kept improving. The competition would have been insane, and he would have been another championship contender. So I think that Blades fits really nicely there into the A tier, and him and Rebel are two drivers that I wish I would have saw a lot more out of them. I think it would have been great.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. It's Turkeyshot. Gobble, gobble.
I think he fits into this D tier. I think he would be competitive with all those guys. I think that, you know, he's honestly, like, not too bad at Supercross when he gets a feel for a track and tries. But the other categories, I don't know. Turkey just kind of runs around and has fun and does decent, but doesn't care enough to, like, get into that average ass or B tier, so put him right there in the D.
UMP 45. Just kidding, it's just ump. Alright, get it? Ump, UMP.
There needs to be like a mid tier right here, because I think he would fit right into this mid tier if there was like a B+ or A-. I'm gonna overall Halo 5 career. Recently, ump would probably be A tier, right? But overall Halo 5 career, I think I'm gonna settle with B tier. Ump started off as probably like a D tier driver, so starts off pretty decent, quickly improves, gets to potential like win and like top 3 category, and stays pretty consistent. Has some troubles with like clean driving, but then when he makes that eventual comeback, I thought he did a pretty nice job in his comeback and improved even more. So again, like if we could have seen a little bit more from ump recently, I think that like one full season of him having that consistent performance that we saw from him in season 11, I'd probably put him up to A tier. But with what we have overall, I think I have to settle with ump in the B tier.
Harry, Uncle Blake
is another D tier driver. Apparently D tier is the most common. Yeah, I think D tier. Oval wise, I think the oval racing is kind of what made me want to put him up to average ass, but still like overall just, I don't know, not as competitive in the other types of racing, and he always like conked on ovals as well, and that kind of like throws it down a little bit. So with like the pit cheating and stuff like that. So I gotta put Uncle Blake down there to the D tier. I think he had potential to be an average ass racer or a B tier if he cleaned some of that stuff up, but because of it, I have to recognize it and have to put him in that D tier.
Gucci gang, 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 Gucci gang. Was that 8? Spend 3 racks on new chain. Vulcan do cocaine.
And here we are. I love that it's the Lil Pump picture. This is Vulcan. I'm not explaining the picture though that I chose. Vulcan is almost as hard for me as Kambi, because very similarly to Kambi, I think that Vulcan could be in like, except for S tier, pretty much any of these other tiers depending on the season. Maybe not A, but like any of these tiers throughout any of the seasons, I feel like Vulcan could be in. Overall, I think that it settles out Vulcan as our last average ass racer. I think that Vulcan has went through a crazy Halo 5 career. But overall, I think that he's improved, and overall, when he's not like rage quitting, if it wasn't for the rage quits and stuff like that, I might even consider putting him B tier. But I have to factor that in, that is a common thing, and that you know, if it weren't for that, and if he focused up a little bit more, he could have like really took advantage of that potential. Because I especially on Supercross and ovals, I feel like Vulcan did have potential, but some of those things just kind of like always held him back and kind of forced him into that average ass racer category. So here we go. There you go, guys. There is my final Halo 5 driver tier list. I'm feeling pretty good about this. I think I did a decent job. But of course, just like the other tier lists, there's going to be debate and stuff like that. So let me know what you think. I'll leave the link as well if you want to even make your own. I'm more concerned about feedback on the pictures that I chose, because that's the big thing here. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you next time.